Well, hello, everybody. May God bless you all. Jesus is the only way to the Father. Love you all. Before we do this news update about Hezbollah's being hit by Israel more, Syria is getting struck more, some more Israeli news, and a Texas law that is passing, and China just ran their first test on their artificial sun that we had talked about a while back. I just want to give a real quick update. Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be live doing Matthew chapter 21. Then tomorrow, there'll be a news update. There will be no videos on this channel until Saturday. Between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern, we will be street preaching in um, Satan Con in Boston. Watchman Adam's going to be with us, Sharpen Your Sword Ministry, Ross Bell, one of our subscribers, and my wife Yellowbird, her channel. We're going to be there with many others too, depending on what side of the camp they're going to be at. And then later on that night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be in Salem at the Satanic Temple. There was a gathering that's happening there that we are joining up with some other people to go against this. So, just want to give a news update with that. Would really love everybody in spirit to be online to pray against all this because where two or more are gathered, I expect there to be way more than two or more gathered. And since I won't be having any videos Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I will be sharing the sermon Sunday on the community tab for anybody who missed it because of how YouTube hides things because they are afraid of the name of Jesus Christ. Unless you're Joel Osteen or somebody like that that doesn't preach the true gospel, they'll let that get spread out far and wide. But so we're going to get into this. First, we're going to talk about, it was at the end of last year. We were talking about how the Lord had told me to keep your eyes on Syria. And man, we've had a lot of reports for the past 4 months ever since then to talk about Syria. And Israeli artillery targets Hezbollah site in southwest Syria, per report. They gave leaflets to an area warning the Syrian army to not cooperate and join forces with Iran and Hezbollah. But we already know, remember, it was, I think, a few weeks back, we did report that Iran, they had finally realized there was a ploy. They were tricking them. They weren't sending humanitarian aid for the earthquakes. They actually were sending weapons to help destroy Israel. And this shouldn't be a surprise because Syria, really, they needed the help for the individuals that had been affected by the earthquake. But Syria has been bombing their own people for over a decade now. So it's really no surprise there. This artillery strike targeted a site belonging to Hezbollah terrorists. Here's one of the videos. So, they had been striking them. The report in a local area said the artillery targeted a site near the Syrian-Israeli border. An explosion could be heard in the video, some 20 some odd shells. They reported on a Lebanese TV station that there was no injuries in the attack. Things are really ramping up over here. Here is the leaflet that they had given to Syria, warning against the Iran and Hezbollah. Don't take any more help from them. They're really pushing back. It wasn't long. It was just this comes a few days after the defense minister Gallant had said that they were going to double their pace of strikes in Syria in the first quarter of 2023. And boy, have they ever. Remember, December 31st, said the Lord said the Hebrew word 2023 stood for a mountain in Syria. And he said to keep your eye on Syria. It was January 1st. They got bombed by Israel, and they still have been ever since, or they've been in the news bombing Israel. So it's been back and forth. And it's no wonder why they are going to increase their attacks on them because we will not allow Iran to set up a Syrian army that will turn the Golan Heights into Lebanon. That's why they're saying this, because they're trying to turn the Golan Heights into Lebanon. The Golan Heights is very biblical. It's the land of milk and honey. And this is one of the biggest reasons why attacks are coming on this place. But Israel to hit back harder against terrorist aggression. This is coming around the 75th Independence Day on Tuesday and Wednesday. They're talking about stepping up against the Palestinian terrorism that is happening in Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza Strip, per Prime Minister Benjamin, that they're going to start going after. This is a clear message to Hamas and Hezbollah. The links will be in the description. Um, they're like it's saying here last week. The Israeli Defense Force struck assets belonging to Hezbollah, firing artillery at targets in the Syrian-held part of the Golan Heights. Things are really amping up over here. The Palestinian Arab Israeli terrorists have also um, had several deadly attacks since the beginning of the year. Actually, I think there was another one today of a stabbing. There's been a lot that's been going on. We need to continue to keep them in our prayers because the biblical lands over here are in turmoil. And we know with the Middle East starting to have a ramped up implications of Magog and Gog alliances forming and Israel getting struck a lot, that we are knowing that this is big biblical signs to the end times. So keep our eyes continued on this. Now, remember, the Jews were banned from going to the Temple Mount during Ramadan because of the violence that was going back and forth. Today is the first time since Ramadan that they're allowed to go back to the Temple Mount. Monday morning, they were permitted to ascend to the Temple Mount for the first time in 12 days. The Israeli government had barred Jews from visiting the holiest site for the last 10 days of the month long Muslim holiday of Ramadan. Now, remember, of course, the Jews celebrate Passover. It's not a month long, but here, the Muslims have a month long holiday. And if we remember, this was supposed to be a house of prayer. That's the Bible verse they go off of, based in Isaiah, that my house is to be a house of prayer. And the Jews were to not able to come here and to pray, which has been something they've been doing for a long time. So uh, they're in the first time able to return to the Temple Mount today. So this was big news for them. A lot of them have been waiting to go here and to pray. Of course, we know that we are the temple. We can pray anywhere, but it is nice to go to certain locations and to pray. Like, I like to come to my office, shut the door. It's quiet in here. Everybody's away. I can have my alone time with God to pray. So at the same point, people like going to Temple Mount because they feel this is their alone time with God. But we know that the Western Wall was packed with worshipers. They weren't banned from going to the Western Wall, but they were bound to go to Temple Mount. And the Temple Mount, the violence had been increasing the past 12 days at the Temple Mount. So it may have been a wise decision to say they couldn't, but at the same point, it's supposed to be a house of prayer, and that's the furthest thing it's been from right now. So let's wait and see if in prior times, if any more violence happens, if they end up banning Muslims from coming here during any other time. I didn't see a ban on telling them the Muslims couldn't come up during Passover, but there was a ban on the Jews to be able to come and to worship. So that was pretty sad. If this is true, if anybody lives in Texas, I would really like to know in the comments section, because a Texas Senate just passed a bill requiring public school classrooms to display the Ten Commandments. This would be very monumental news. Um, and whoever is in the Texas Senate passing this is pretty awesome. It says the Texas Senate passed a bill on Thursday requiring each public school classroom to display a copy of the Ten Commandments, a move that drew backlash from civil liberty advocates who say lawmakers should not dictate what religious material students are exposed to. Of course, this is what every super satanic person says, because, of course, we'll push Satan Club in places, we'll push transgender ideology on people, but, God forbid you push the truth. God forbid you put the truth in our school. It might make boys and girls realize they're only born a boy or a girl. But the Senate Bill 1515, authored by State Senate Phil King, a Republican, requires the Ten Commandments to be displayed in a conspicuous place in each classroom in a size and typeface that is legible to a person with average vision from anywhere in the classroom to see it. So this is pretty cool. It was a 17 to 12 vote. So it was almost a 50-50. Almost. But bringing the Ten Commandments and prayer back to our public schools will enable our students to become better Texans, he added. If we remember, since 1960, prayer has been taken out of school. And American test scores are the lowest in the world. We got the dumbest kids in the world. Let's just be legitimate about it. We got the dumbest kids in the world. And before that, we were like one of the smartest nations when we had God in the school systems. We wonder why when we took God out, God had turned over people to reprobate minds and schools started teaching nothing that is actually truth. They teach more philosophies in schools anymore than anything else. So, if we want our kids to start being smarter people, this is actually a really intelligent move to make. I could care less what somebody with a beard and a dress has on wants to say about it. I really have no sympathy for them because if you can't accept the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, if you cannot accept the truth, then the truth is not in your heart and you're never going to be free. I can't accept your ideologies being pushed down on my children. I would love for schools to start standing up and saying, we're going to put God in the schools. Maybe at least people can start letting their kids go back to public schools, and then the ones that don't like it can be homeschooled and sheltered away from the world, almost like every Christian kid is being suppressed and secluded from the world and can't be part of the world because of their ideologies, with any parent that's actually standing against this stuff and is homeschooling their children because they won't allow them to be part of this. And I will not allow my children to be part of this. My children love people, but my children hold to the truth of the gospel. Now, China just ran an artificial sun for 403 seconds, almost four times the previous world record. They're getting closer to putting this artificial sun up. China's artificial sun set a world record Wednesday night by generating and maintaining extremely hot, highly confined plasma for nearly 7 minutes. Um, so they're getting closer to allowing this. In 2017, the previous record was 101 seconds. So they pretty much doubled, almost tripled it by how long they'd had it. I don't see good outcomes from this. If they allow this and they continue and they're successful with it, I really don't see anything other than a mass meltdown of everything that's going to happen. It's almost like they're going to be putting a nuclear bomb in the middle of the sky trying to do this. So the links will be in the description. This was a milestone for them. Of course, we know that they won an artificial moon too. So in due time, they will probably have all this stuff up. So Fair Use Act, this video contained copyrighted material. Such materials made available for educational purposes only. This constitutes a fair use act of any such copyrighted material as provided for Title 17 USC Section 106A-117 of the U.S. copyright law. So may God bless you all. Keep your heads up. We fight from victory, not from defeat.